what we'd like to cover today. Are there any course design tips that you've heard of or thought, where do I start? If you just want to know where to start, that's fine as well. The thing that I like about this is, so I'll ask you to, what your name is, where you're from, and any questions that you'd like to get out of today. I always figure that there are things that I've seen and that I've heard that are really smart, and there are some that I've practices that I've seen and heard that are not always the best thing, but it's sort of the easiest thing. And I try to find out what are the ones that are both really good and also fairly easy to do. Because we can do good teaching if we kill ourselves and really focus on that, but we have other things to do in our lives, so we have to have that balance. So we try to find the course design tips that are simple to do and yet also effective. Who would like to start? Jennifer?
I can start. I'm Jennifer. I'm a grad student in physical therapy and a project assistant with the Active Teaching Labs. And I'm always interested in the challenges that people are having with course design and solutions that people might know to those challenges.
Okay. Challenges? Laura?
I direct a language program, and I'm always looking for new tips. Some things that I find troublesome are when students can't find the content that they're looking for. Mm-hmm. So how many different ways can I possibly navigate to one place so that the students see it? Because they all are coming in looking at it differently, probably. How can I best make sure they're aware of sort of assistive resources, not the ones that they have to go to, but when they're struggling they could go to for help? Because sometimes those will end up at the very end of things and harder to find, so they don't know that they're actually there. So trying to.
Excellent. Margaret?
Hello, I'm Margaret. I'm a grad student at the iSchool, and I work here with John and Jennifer in the Active Teaching Lab. What I was thinking was said already, but I'll also say that I'm always interested in a standardized approach to these things, so the templates have always intrigued me, and what's the best way maybe to use the templates, or are there any tips, tricks, and best practices that people might find beneficial?
All right. And Dustin?
Dustin, faculty emeritus in African American cultures, African cultural studies, and I'm working with students informally and programs in Indonesia, sort of interested in the ideas of multiple means of engagement.
Okay. Multiple means of engagement is part of this idea of universal design for learning. So we'll definitely talk on that. That's a favorite topic of mine. And Jen?
I'm starting a new course in the medical school, and it's called a basic science selective, but it's 2 weeks of 80 hours worth of coursework.
Wow.
So it's kind of crazy. So I just wanted to learn some things that I could do correctly at the get-go and not have problems with later, so I'm open to whatever.
All right.
Whatever tips I can learn.
I'm going to write down immersive courses.
Yeah.
Because that sounds like they jump in and they stay in. And I think that's a little bit different from when you have a whole semester to sort of tweak things and see how they react and change things. So yeah, you're going to have to plan everything all in advance. And,
right.
And if
it has
it doesn't
to be ready to go.
You've got less room for error and modification and such.
Yeah.
So good luck.
Yeah, thanks.
All right, so let's start with sort of the templates and universal design. So one of the things that Margaret mentions is the idea of templates, right? and what good are templates? And templates actually will help you, Jana, as you, because they've been thought through, they're by people who've spent hundreds of hours working on them for to be comprehensive, to be very clear, to make the wayfinding for the students, the navigation very open and transparent and such. Templates are easy for students. In their ideal world, they would like all of the courses to look the same or have the same structure, because that way in Dustin's class I know where the assignments are, in Jana's class I know where the assignments are, in Lauren's class I know where the assignments are. In Desire to Learn, our previous learning management system, you could have assignments over here, somebody else could have them over here, they could also be hidden over, through this little loophole or wormhole over there. But in Canvas, it's a very clear, there are fewer opportunities for that kind of sneakiness. In general, assignments appear here, but in the templates, I believe that is actually gone. As an instructor, you can take all of these things away, or as many of these things away. And using the module system gives you that very clear way to organize. As an instructor, you can have these sort of headings and different content pieces, pages, quizzes, readings, etc. within that in whatever order you want. The big course design tip here is nomenclature, using very clear naming for that, so you don't have file 1 or assignment number 17. And that's often one of the problems with leaving files visible and even leaving assignments visible, is if the students go into the assignments tab, it can look really crazy. And then they have to figure out, well, what is the assignment for this and what is the assignment for that, and scroll through it. And if you've done a really good job at labeling, that can be clear to some, but other people might not think the way that you think. So what's clear to you, this is to your point, Lauren, is not necessarily clear to other people. We often think when we're designing, we got 13 weeks or 2 weeks. So week 1, day 1, day 2, day 3, but the students don't go through life saying, oh, it's day 17 of the whatever course. They think of what's the date? Is it Thursday or is it Friday? Is it Tuesday? So having multiple ways to look at that is a good one. And the way to keep that organized, I think, is through the modules. It's the clearest way. Templates let you do that very well. Do we talk about templates here?
Yes, it's on the
Yes.
second page.
Canvas templates, so many already built in.
And it runs it off, if you access the digital version, there's an extra page that has links to the previews and the download link, because it runs off that last page.
So on the second page on your handout, it runs off, but if you go to the electronic page, you've got another half page of discussions on templates. Before the semester starts, we will probably have another session that first week before the semester starts, talking, at least in some respects, about Canvas templates, and we'll step into that a little bit more deeply. There are also all kinds of knowledge-based documents, and really Google and YouTube are fantastic resources for finding videos on how to do a lot of these important export things. So it's not the simplest thing in the world to do, because it's not as easy as clicking and dragging, but it's not a difficult task to use somebody else's course. As far as universal design for learning.
Can I stop you for
Oh
one
yes,
second?
please do.
Are both of you using Canvas?
I'm learning to use
You're
Canvas.
learning, okay.
Yeah.
So one of the things that was not clear to me right away, but now that I understand it, makes a whole lot of sense.
Okay.
Can you go to a modules view of a page?
Yes.
Okay. So the way the modules work, when you click on that first page, there will be a next button at the bottom which will go to the next thing that's in line on there. Wait, go back again.
I want to go to the,
Okay.
right here.
Okay, yeah, so you don't have to put everything that you create in modules,
Okay.
but you do want the things in your modules to go in the order in which you want your students to navigate to them, because they can navigate in multiple ways.
Yeah.
And so if you have things in your modules that you don't want students to go to independently, like you want them to do something first and then get to it, then you want to make it as a link in your page rather than an item in your module where they can just click next and end up at it. Are you following what I'm saying? So maybe if you go back to the modules, look.
Well, within the page, so
Yeah.
this is one page, and then we've got, okay, do this, then do this, then do this. And at the very bottom, when they get through with this page, there's the next button, which will lead them to the next
Section,
thing
right?
in your module.
As opposed to putting each of those items as part of the module, because they might not go in the order in which you want them to go in.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? So this was really, when I first started, unclear to me. So you don't have to put everything in your modules list that you want them to access. Some things are better.
And when we started, we did not use, I did not promote using modules at all. I said, grab a page and have everything in that page. The thing that I like about the modules that has caused me to change my mind is in the student view, as soon as they get done with one, you can have it as marked as done. So for student wayfinding, instead of saying, did I do number 3 or did I not do number 3 on that list of things that John wanted me to do, here they see that there's a check mark that says that, oh good, I've done it. And this is really important for students that aren't just sitting down and doing things in one fell swoop, but are revisiting the content from time to time throughout the day or on the bus or wherever. Helping them not get lost in that content is a great reason to use modules.
The problem with the modules page that I see, which makes the templates better, is that after 14 weeks, that list gets really, really long. And so if you leave things open, which I like to do because with languages it builds on itself, so they might want to go back and to something they did earlier, that I don't turn things off so that they stop seeing it after they've finished it. So that page gets super duper long. So what we've started doing is putting a, like week 1 schedule, and they can click on that week 1 schedule and get to links to all of the things they need to do in week 1, week 2 schedule, because the modules for all of those things are then below that. So they could go through the modules, but it gets really long.
Another strategy that I've heard people do is after week 1, they just take this and they drag that module down to the bottom.
Right.
So that week 2, when the students come to the module thing, it's up at the very top. So every time
Are you
the students
sure
go
that
to
that changes it for the students too, and it's not just your view?
my understanding is yes. Just
Okay.
as changing the order of these
Okay.
changes it for everybody as the
Okay.
as
And
the
that's a
instructor
great
have
idea,
it all.
and I wish more people would do that, so you could still access the previous week, but
Right.
you would know your most current
Current
week,
week is at the top.
because the module list
Right.
does get really long, and if it's not labeled intuitively, whatever that
Right.
means, then you're searching and searching,
Right.
clicking and searching.
And that's where I have trouble with the, how do they find the resources section?
Right.
Because that could be way.
Well, I had a class where the professor just had week numbers up there, but then the professor, I guess, didn't understand what week we were in. And so
Right. Well, and the students certainly don't.
And so somebody had convinced the instructor then to change it to the actual dates that correspond to this semester, because the course had been replicated from
Yeah.
a previous term where the weeks were different in spring break, And so if you have the dates, you can do week number, but that is meaningless to most people, but to have the dates.
And so this is where it gets really do we want to be effective or do we want to be efficient? And is there a way to do both? Because moving these modules in order requires that the instructor be on top of it And after each class, they say, okay, we're done with this class. I'm going to open this up and I'm going to move it. So that's extra work for the instructor. Labeling it from week 1 to January 24th means that the instructor has to know what days they're meeting on this semester, and then next semester when they repeat the course, they have to go in and they have to change all of those dates. That's extra work on that. So is that the best way to do it? Or is the best way to do it to say Unit 1, which is a multi-week thing maybe, we're doing these things. Unit 2, we're doing these things. Week 1, week 2, week 3, I won't say nobody because I'm sure some people think that way. But that gets into the idea of multiple ways, multiple means of understanding content. Universal Design for Learning says we should because students are different, because learners are all different, and we look at the world differently from our different experiences, our different skill sets, our different values, having multiple ways to engage the students lets them connect to the content and make it personally meaningful. Having multiple ways for them to see how the material is represented, see, hear, feel, etc. Even 2 options will reach many more ways than others. And then multiple ways to express that they've understood the content. So instead of, I've learned it this way, I was tested on it this way, this is the way that I'm going to be tested on it, giving them other ways of doing that. Even if it's something like, instead of one high-stakes test, you have many low-stakes tests, or an option for the different ways. That way, if they wake up on that one day that the high-stakes test is and they don't feel good, which we've all done, they haven't shot their career in that. Now, it's difficult in the med school and in some of these certification courses to change that culture. You can't oftentimes. There are ways that you do things and there are ways that you're expected to do things. So finding the multiple ways to let the students express that they've learned this, sometimes your hands are kind of tied on that. But anything that you can do to help them even get any kind of feedback on it, whether it's discussions for less points, in addition to the high-end quiz, high-stakes quiz or exam is good. You were going to say something too, you've been waiting.
Yeah, going back to the modules, I just have 2 things to mention. So if you make a page and publish it, but then you move the page into a module that is not published, students can't access it. So you have to check your little green arrows. Yeah. So the module has to be published and the page has to be published. And that gets me pretty much every time.
Yeah.
Okay,
So here's an
those
example
pages
where
are
all the pages are published, but the module is
module's
not. The
Right.
student will not be able to see any of these things, even though the little green thing is, because they're contained within this larger organizational thing without that.
And then my other note, I guess, was
One question before we move from that one. So if you publish that module and you don't publish a page, then will the next button just skip over that page?
I don't know.
I don't know, let's try
That is
it.
good. I can't try it because I'm an instructor, so it won't.
Oh.
That's a-
Wait,
You guys are in our.
Yeah, I'm in your
Sandbox,
in
yeah.
your site. Can you maybe unpublish a page and I'll try it?
Sure. You want me to unpublish the module or a single page?
Just unpublish a page.
All right,
I
Spring
guess.
19 Labs, the second one. So if you go to the first one and you hit forward, it will either take you down to this one, or maybe it'll take you to this subpage.
Oh yeah, let's see.
Let's see. So I'm on the
Actually, it will take you to this one
first
because
page that says 0117.
yeah,
And when I click
the next one will
next,
take you to example
it
success
takes me
pages.
to
My money's-
example
my money's
success
on this.
page.
Yeah.
Because
It skipped over the 118, but it took me to the interior page.
even though these are indented, they're not folders.
Yeah, it's not like a sub. It's not a hierarchy.
It's not a hierarchy. These can have the indent decreased or increased. So it's just a visual organizing thing. It's a fake subfolder that doesn't actually work like a subfolder. But visually, it helps students understand that these 2 examples are part of this one.
So then, my other tip, I guess, is if you're trying to make something noticeable to students, you can use the redirect app to make your own button on the left side there.
Okay, this is super high end. So just as a,
Sorry,
and-
we can
and
save it for the end.
it's good, but yeah. So these guys, you can create your own custom ones. So you can have one that says week 1 or unit 1 or whatever.
Resources or whatever.
Resources.
Click here
Right.
if you're
So
struggling.
if your modules and you want the modules to only be for the chronologically guided course schedule stuff, but resources are also under here. You can put resources over here, and then it can get lost over here, and that's okay, because they will be accessing it from resources over here.
Okay.
And that's the redirect tool. Do we have anything about that on here?
No, sorry.
All right, but
I
we
can
do
add it to
somewhere.
the notes.
If you can add it to the notes,
Yeah.
let me add that. Because of the magic of digital worksheets, anything that we add, it can change. So right down here at the very bottom of that page, Jennifer's already been taking notes. She'll add that resource on how to get to how to do the redirect tool.
Can we test you switching the order of a module and see if it actually does switch it on mine, or if that's a personal thing? Just because I'm
Yes.
not convinced.
All right, yeah.
I'm a doubting Thomas.
Summer 19. All right, I just put.
No, I meant like
The whole
the
module.
whole,
Module?
like move summer 2019 to below spring. Yeah.
Let's do both.
Do like that, and let's see if when I reload what it does to mine. Yep, it did put the spring 2019 at the top then. Okay.
All right.
I'm done being a doubting Thomas, so
It's always good to double check.
Back in.
I apologize to Thomas, whoever he is.
All right, so back on track here.
Alright. Yep.
You said you're learning Canvas right now, right? Does this feel a little bit like, oh my gosh, tidal wave overwhelming?
I'm trying not to go there.
Okay,
I'm trying
good.
to take deep
Good.
breaths.
It's, watch the ocean, say, wow, that looks impressive, that's good. But don't worry about taking your little skiff across the Atlantic quite yet.
Okay.
We don't have to go there yet. I want to make sure that you know about Learning UW has a lot of let's see, we got events coming up. These are much more technically focused events. So this gets much more into the button pressing, how to do all of these things that we're talking about.
Okay.
The grade book on, oh, hey, we're listed as a Learning UW. Oh. There's one tomorrow, Canvas Tips and Tricks, that will go over some of the same sorts of things that we're doing, but much more of the how-to. And Cliff is really good. He's got a canned curriculum of saying, here's how to do this, here's how to do this, here are the resources for doing these things. In today's session, it's sort of a, let's give you that look of the ocean and scare you from entering. So I just wanted to make sure that, it's okay. It's an easier system than another learning management system. You're teaching this in fall?
March.
March.
Take some time, yeah. Although I have to come up with 80 hours of coursework ahead of time, so I can't be complacent.
Right. And think about the organization of your course in a Google Doc or some other. Are you doing this by yourself, or do you have?
I'm a co-teacher, yeah.
Okay, so
yeah, she's doing grades whenever, and then I don't know if we're gonna get to tips and tricks, but we might need to do that. So,
Yeah. But yeah, having that collaborative document to do a lot of the planning.
Yeah.
Because don't try to do the planning in
Don't plan it.
Canvas
Okay.
necessarily. You can do it, and it'll be a great way to learn. But start off with a template in a sandbox space, and then add things individually. But you kind of have to have a good full plan before you start building it. Otherwise, things can get.
Yeah, and I think the modules is the way we'll have to do it because we have different content for 10 days. So
Yep.
I don't
in the collaborative document, or will help you get some of the nomenclature and the naming conventions standardized between two different brains that are trying to design the course.
Okay,
So that's it's a great way to do that.
okay.
All right, let's just move right up to help for students, because we talked about that resource page. And again, building off of templates, the templates have a lot of this already built in. They have things like if you need assistance in the course, here's where to go, the standard names for standard language and text for a lot of the things that you should definitely have in your syllabus. It's already also built into the Canvas templates. Starting off with the syllabus and the goals from the curricular committee for your outcomes, and then thinking about where are the outcomes going to be met within my course is another way to help you keep track of the design of your course. And again, a great way to do that is outside of Canvas rather than inside Canvas, and then later on take like your headings in your Google Sheet or whatever, and then bring those into the modules as page headings and such. Another thing about the help for the students that we often forget about as instructors is they help each other. If they're allowed, they can, and if you set up spaces for them to do so, they can help each other. In Canvas, one trick that I've seen done that I think is brilliant is you can have a discussion set up that is a pinned discussion that says questions or resources or help each other, that is not just a standard frequently asked questions, but it can also be a, hey, I can't figure out what to do with X, Y, or Z. Does anyone know? Other students can post discussions, they can post responses, so they can answer a lot of the things that you can. The best thing about it though is you don't have to answer individual emails. If you make this part of your policy, that if you have a question, do not send me an email, post it into the help discussion, and that way when you answer it for your one student, every other student who has that question will be able to see it, and you won't have to send X number of emails to a bunch of different people. That helps you make your course a lot easier for you because you're answering the question one time instead of several times. Margaret?
I had a course where in the pin discussions there was a bubbler, a water cooler.
Yeah.
And that was just for anything of interest on the topic that didn't fall into a planned discussion. So people would often post conference information that may be related to the course,
Yeah.
or if there was a speaker on campus, or stuff like that didn't naturally fall into a predefined discussion area. People would post it there, or people would just post pictures of their pet or whatever. It was a water cooler is what it was called.
And I think that a place that encourages and allows students to bring their own personal understandings and connections to the content and share it with the rest of the class, that is them reflecting on the course content. It's them analyzing whether the course content or whether their experience is connected to the course content. They have to figure out how to communicate that course content. These are all higher level thinking skills for Bloom's taxonomy. They have to understand the content. They have to, all of these things. So give them credit for that.
It was a very organic discussion because you didn't get points for it.
Right.
So no one was worried, gee, did I meet my 300 word count requirement, or did I quote a citation? You didn't have to worry. You could just actually go there and talk to people.
Right. And a picture of your dog in that informal spot, that will not be probably adding to the content of the course. That is a much more organic, personal interest thing.
Yeah.
Valuable because it helps the students recognize that that we're all humans here, we're people, and people who have interests outside of the course. It's not just a bunch of competitors that I'm working against, but I think, and that helps the learning cohort in general.
So
Right.
does the pin discussion always stay at the top? Is that?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
If it is pinned and you can
Yours
click
is
it
not
there.
currently like available to us. Like if I go into discussion.
Oh yeah, look at that, it's not published.
Stops doing it. No one was participating.
Lauren.
So yeah, we can publish it and then we can pin it, unpin it.
Oh, okay, so that's where the pinning and unpinning is from those three dots.
The kebabs, the
The
three,
kebab.
yes.
Yeah, I was trying to think of what to call it.
I think you can drag and drop it too, I'm not sure, but
The,
from the pins
Oh,
to
yeah.
the unpinned section, but I'm not positive. Oh, yeah.
yep. So yeah, different ways of getting in there. Sample class discussion, that background blah in there. But yeah, in many ways it's an intuitive, easy to use interface, but there are a lot of weird things like if you're ever lost or you don't know how to do something, you have to click the gear button in order to figure out what that does. You have to click these kebab buttons. This one's called the hamburger button, that gives you more information. Like there's different food themed. I actually don't know what these are called. Grabbers?
Pasta button?
What is it? Pasta? Could be, I don't know.
It kind of looks like a
Ice cube
six
tray.
pack,
Orzo?
maybe it's an 8-pack. I
Ice
don't know.
cubes or, I don't know, there's
Quinoa?
8 of them. Or I think it comes in 8 little, yeah. So it's a lot of, it requires a lot of messing around, experimenting, pressing buttons and seeing what happens. They do make it very nice so that it's not very easy to break things in there. You usually get a warning that says, are you sure you want to do this? If you're about to break something. Otherwise, you can just move things around. As far as I know, there's no undo button though. Mark?
John, I don't know if it's in the template that's referenced or not, but one of the challenges I had with my courses was the assumption that I knew how to use Kaltura Media Space. And that's fine, I can figure it out. And I sort of figured it out, but I would say that if that's your expectation, to pin a discussion that's linked to the tutorial videos and provide that information, because we were, in several of my courses, people were talking and saying it took them hours to figure it out. And do you really want someone spending that much time on the media or, you know, on the technical aspect of it? So be sure and put resources in there to help guide people. I know there's videos because I've seen the videos, but make
Right.
sure they're there. If you're expecting them to upload a narrated video, give them lots of upfront instruction and even spend time on it as a week 1 requirement, because at the end of the term, people in my last class were just really struggling with the technical side of it when the focus should have been on the content.
Yeah, and this is that's a very good point. Again, a really great opportunity for the students. You know, the first student that does find out, oh, here's an awesome video that explains how to do this.
Right, they can
Or
put it there, yeah.
if they put it there, and if you give them points for it, they will. They will help each other so that you don't have to. And that saves you time. Reward your students for helping the learning move forward, for helping people to get over the technical hurdles so they can focus more on the content.
And maybe give them one of those, I don't know what you call it, just a mini task that says create
Yes.
a Kaltura media piece as part of your introduction, because they always have, you know, introduce yourself to your classmates, make it a Kaltura video, if that's going to be part of a future assignment, so that it adds value without all the pressure at the end of the semester, you know. Introduce yourself, use
Yeah.
Kaltura to do it.
So the idea of scaffolding, starting with a small little
Yes.
thing that is about the technical element, as once they do it one time, the next time they'll know how to do it, and they won't be focusing the second time on the technical elements,
Right.
they'll focus on the content area. So
Hopefully.
a really great example of,
Yeah.
of that as well. Lauren?
So question for you, Margaret. If you're providing them with the materials ahead that, you know, like the how to do Kaltura videos or whatever, is that better posted as an announcement, posted in a page of resource information, or posted as a discussion?
You know, I really think that it belongs in week 1 discussion, and the discussion instructions say, where I would like you to do a brief Kaltura video that introduces yourself, where you're from, and have it be that way. If later on in the term you're going to expect them to use this technology, I would put it in a week 1 discussion.
But why, I guess my question is, if the resource itself on how to create a Kaltura video,
Yeah.
should that be a discussion item, or should that be an announcement with a link? If you've never used Kaltura, here's a link on the how-to, or should that be a page of, here's some resources to help you in using the technologies you'll need for this class?
So my thought on that is you have this resources tab, which might be a resources redirect button that leads to a module. Within that module, you can have a page of, here are the things that I know that you'll be running into
Yeah.
on Kaltura, another page on YouTube, another page on using Google Docs, another page on using whatever, as much as you want to. You can also in that have a discussion about other things, miscellaneous things that you found, you students have found. Please contribute here. So if they run across something in the Google Docs and the Kaltura one that you didn't think of, because when we think within our own sphere of understanding, and of course they know this and they won't know this, but we don't know because we are not all of our students.
Right.
But the students would be able to contribute and say, oh, I
This
had
way.
trouble with this area here, can somebody help me? I wasn't able to find solutions to it in the resources page.
And the other thing I would do is I would really delineate your expectations in terms of the quality of that. Again, in my last class, you know, I know how to create an e-learning. I know how to do this stuff, and not using Kaltura, but using other tools, and you know, I have my own server, I can upload it, all of that, so I didn't need Kaltura. But when I saw the quality, which I'll say was low quality because they just don't know how to use it, you gotta spell out the quality that you want. And if you want clean audio, you gotta say, I really expect high quality audio, because many of these final presentations, I thought, wow, were not quite what they could have been if
Because the
they
students
knew-
are not instructional designers.
But
like,
if they,
you know.
well, right, I know, but if they actually knew how to use the tools better, and I
Right.
think they would have been, they could have been better, right? They're not instructional designers, but give them guidance, give them maybe a rubric of your expectations in terms of quality, so they can meet it. They're gonna learn it. If you say to them, you know, and also, if professors are using it, they could demonstrate what it looks like, you know, provide examples.
I have another question about this idea of a discussion, and I'm totally for it, that it becomes sort of a Q&A,
Yeah.
random, what students have questions about. How do you, one, drive them there in the first place to ask a question, and even more importantly, what would drive another student to go see that question and respond to it if they did know the answer?
It might,
When it's not assigned and going through the modules and all of a sudden they get to it, how do you?
actually, in my class, that's a great question. In the class where I had the bubbler, you know, as a pin discussion, the professor in the week 1 video mentioned it and said, this is a place for anything you want to post there. My gosh, by the end of the semester, there was like over 100. So people, because she introduced it and said, go there, check it out, help your class. I mean, she introduced it so people knew to go there. What kept them going there, to your second question, I don't know, but I often went there because when I sit down to my Canvas course, I look and see what those numbers are that I haven't read yet. You know, you see unread, you see the number of responses, and then you see the number of unread. And I would just hit every one of those that I haven't read yet.
People look for help when they need it, right?
Right.
They don't ahead of time say, oh, in 3 months I'm going to need this thing. So if you tell them at the beginning of the semester, there's a resources page,
Right.
maybe they'll remember it, maybe they won't until they need it, and then maybe they'll remember it, but maybe they won't. Will they contribute answers to others? They will if they are rewarded either extrinsically by, here are 3 points, thank you for helping out your colleague and making the class a more cohesive cohort, or intrinsically by saying, ooh, I can help learn, and that way she'll think that I'm smart and I get social capital gain by that.
Okay.
Sometimes that works, sometimes that doesn't work. If you're in a very competitive class, then I'm gonna be like, I'm not helping anybody because that, you know, if you all do terribly, I'm gonna look like I know what I'm doing. I'm gonna be the best of the best. So, what is your class culture like? And what do you want it to be like? And oftentimes, especially in some of the more competitive fields, people come in with this sort of, I need to do this for myself and I can't share with other people.
Mm-hmm.
And that is great for their ranking maybe, but it's bad for your whole class learning, and it's a hard culture to change.
Mm-hmm.
So what can you do? And again, multiple ways of doing that.
Mm-hmm.
What are the little things you can do to help your students learn to help each other? Because ultimately they will need to do that. We need to all learn how to work together in this world.
I've also found that
John for president.
whoever is the one who struggled for an hour to figure it out, then wants this channel to vent about it, and so then they can vent in the discussion and say, this was horrible, save yourselves, here's how you do it. So I found that often, if you don't
Okay.
mind people, you know,
Yeah.
tune you out on discussion.
And reward the venting too, because you learned from the venting that, oh, next year, I'm gonna have to change this assignment a little bit. I'm gonna have to include more resources, more up front, or later on, or in this way or that way. Yeah, and if we reward that, if we reward both the, you know, constructive, whether positive or negative, constructive criticism, and if people do the save yourself, here's how to make this work, they're creating content for you for next semester, for the next class.
Yeah.
Use that and, you know, reward them again for using that. Some of them will do it if you enlist them at the very beginning. This is the first time I've taught this class. We're gonna try some things. After each assignment, I'm gonna ask for your feedback on that so that you can save future generations from the ordeal that you are going through and help me make the class a better experience for future use. And students generally will stand up because that's a civic-minded thing to do. They're also not helping their immediate classmates necessarily, but so they're not direct competitors, they're helping future ones. So.
And the templates also have a really nice course orientation module. So what Margaret was talking about, was like putting the how-tos in like a week 1. They actually call it week 0, I think.
Yeah.
But like all of the tech training and expectations, and even if you don't use the template, it like gives you ideas for what to include in your own week 0 orientation materials.
We have templates here, don't we? So where do we have?
No, on the activity sheet.
Yeah, there's a link on the
There's a
activity
link.
On how to,
Preview that.
is there a link to a blank one?
It says to download it.
It's the download, yeah.
Well,
Well,
there's the
preview.
preview.
Click here to preview
thing,
the
which I'm
templates.
looking at, and I'm
Move
not
up.
seeing the 0 module that you're talking about.
Go up. Yeah. Click. Yeah.
Thank you.
I think it's called course orientation module. Start here.
Oh, yeah. Okay, and that's what you mean by the.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, alright, so when you click on that preview, here's basically a template for the course orientation modules, and then they've got multiple ways of looking at concept number 1, if you like that, you feel like that'll fit with your class, or concept number 2, you look at that, see if that fits with the class. But organizationally, week at a glance, what's the overall big picture? And you just go in and you change that text to make it fit what you want to happen in this module, whether the module is a week, or a single class, or an activity within a class, or the whole semester. Look at that. There's a bunch of text you can change. The learning objectives, what do you want the students to have finished by the end of the module, or to be able to understand, how will they be able to demonstrate it, things like that. As you create those learning objectives, think about ways that the students can make those objectives connected to their lives so that they take ownership of it. So they're not just learning it to get the grade for the instructor who made me do this, but they're also connecting it. The objective is to internalize it, to connect it with their lives. So as you write learning objectives, include the students in it, include a space for the students to do that. Reflection is a huge part of good learning. Every time that the students can revisit the course content and make a connection to their life, the learning gets deeper and deeper. And I think we have things on the value of learning here. That was yesterday's activity sheet, which is up here on the home page in the modules. Our course.
That's
That
last
was
week.
feedback. Is that one right?
Yeah.
So take a look at that. The belonging. Students, if they see that people like them are succeeding in class, they will feel like they can succeed in class. If they feel that the instructor cares about their learning, expects them and supports them in their learning, they will succeed, and not just in your class, but further on down their career. And then what was the other one? It was utility value. When students are able to discover for themselves why and how a topic might be useful, it's very positive. And again, not just in your course, but in other courses, because all of a sudden learning starts to have a meaning. If they can connect the learning in your course with their lives, their plans, their vision, their values, their community, etc., they will start to do that in other sessions as well, in other courses as well. All right, so a lot of what we've talked about with wayfinding, actually, we talked a little bit more about with templates. The challenges, well, we've sort of seen a lot of challenges. It's a lot to understand. It's a lot to do. If you want to spend, actually, I don't know what your fall looks like, but you could design your class in this if you have 2 hours a week, and you don't even have to go that much. As far as the immersive element, it's a difficult thing, and to have your first class be an 80-hour, 2-week class is going to be a challenge to get right the first time. So keep it as simple as possible, and in that simplicity, build in a lot of flexibility. So it's immersive, it's simple, there are a few main points that they have to learn, and you give them a lot of space to learn those as much as possible.
Is it an in-person class or an online class?
It's gonna be sort of a combination, so they'll be sort of on their own learning in the morning and then in a classroom in the afternoon.
So you have a chance to see them if
Yeah.
things go off the rails.
Yeah,
That's good.
yeah, that will be good to know if it's going bad fast.
I want to point out this other thing as well. teachonline.wisc.edu, if you are doing an online component or online course, this is a course with other instructors who are designing online courses. They feed you. My class, you won't get fed. But you'll go through this as a student. You'll see the different types of activities, and then they meet in person, so much like your class, and say, what worked in this, what didn't work in this, how can I change this to make it work in my class, or can I just adopt it as is, and it should work well in my class. It's a 2-year thing, so it's a I'm sorry, not 2-semester, fall and spring. I think they're doing one in summer where they're smooshing it together in a more intense class. Again, much like yours, so it might be a really good thing to talk to Karen Skiba about getting into that. The beautiful thing about this is you get to feel how frustrating it is as a student to take an online class, even in a really well-designed, and like the people who design this are really thoughtful about doing the best that they can to make it interactive and fun and good. But even in the best online environment, there's a lot of really terrible, we're limited by what we can do. And so you get to feel that frustration and then debrief and vent about how terrible it was with other people who had to go through it, and then figure out how to solve the problems based on that. So teachonline.wisc.edu is a really good resource. Any other things that we need to talk about? It's an ocean, and it's not a simple plug and play thing to fix. And that's why we have these active teaching labs, so that we can dig into a lot of these things in more detail throughout the semester and be more responsive. All right, thank you all for coming, and if you could check a few boxes on the way out and help us make the future labs better, fill in that green sheet and wrap it off with that completed course evals or evals here.